Story 1. My mother has booked her hotel room next to us on our wedding night. I, 26 female, am getting married in August next year. I wanted to be prepared for the potential wedding boom that could happen in my country next year, so booked everything already now so I don't have to stress over the details later. My father gifted me and my future husband a suite to stay during the wedding at one of the finest hotels in my town. When Mom found out that we got a suite from my dad, she booked 2 suites in the same hotel for her, my stepdad, and my brother. She made a big deal that I and my hubby picked our suite first so she wouldn't reserve that suite by mistake. My parents have been divorced for 23 years and have been doing petty things like this to one-up each other my whole life, so it's nothing new. And I'm just shaking it off and continue with my life. Yesterday, Mom called me and wanted to tell me that she has now booked the suites, and what nice staff there are at the hotel. They're so service-oriented. They said it wouldn't be a problem to book her suite right next to you and hubby's suite. Quite honestly, I was a bit dumbfounded when I heard that. I don't know if I'm oversensitive or being unreasonable, but if there's one thing I don't want, it's spending my wedding night with my mom in the next room. Now I have to take time out of my day to contact the hotel to prevent this. Edit to add. Thank you for the support, everyone. I'll answer some common questions. The hotel cannot move my mom because Mom booked exactly that room, and the receptionist said the room was available on that date. They did not release my information to her. Mom knew exactly which room I would stay in and which date, so she didn't have to say, "Can I have a room next to my daughter?" She only needed to say, "Can I have room A, which is next to room B?" I don't want to change hotels. It's one of the most romantic ones in the city I live in, and I don't want to let Mom chase me away. Many of you suggest I just talk to her. That won't happen either. It's not the first time she's done something like this. I moved 3 hours away from her for a reason. There were some who wanted an update. Yes, I'm a doormat. I've been conditioned to never speak up against my mother and avoid conflict with her because it takes too much energy to argue with her, and I'm wrong in the end anyway. All of your comments were very helpful, but especially one person who messaged me made me realize how my inaction can hurt my relationship, and that was the wake-up call I needed. I sat down with my fiancé and read through what I wrote and the comments where we had a long conversation about the incident and how he feels about it all. It was very clear that I needed to talk to my mother and say how I felt about her wanting a room next to me on my wedding night. My mom can be really manipulative in discussions and has a tendency to shift the focus of the discussion away from the problem and onto another detail and discuss that detail instead of the problem. Therefore, I do not dare talk to her directly. But I wrote to her. Me. I've been thinking a little more about what you said about having a room next to me and my husband on my wedding night, and I'm not really comfortable with it being so close. Mom. When did we talk about it? Me. Gives a description of when we last spoke. Mom. I told the hotel that I wanted a room as close to you as possible, not a room right next to you. Me. Saying as close as possible feels like saying I want a room next door. Mom. But that's not what I said. I said as close to you as possible. I never said next to you two. Me. No, but it can be perceived that way. Mom. But I never said that. When would I have said that in that case? Me, stepdad, and your brother just wanted a room near you. Me. It's okay, but not next to me and my fiancé. I don't want my brothers or family in the next room on my wedding night. No response after that from her. We talked some more on another occasion, and she is wholly convinced that the hotel understands that when she said as close as possible, they understand that she does not mean the room next to us and that she will not have a room next to us. I ask if she has spoken to the hotel about it, and she goes back to saying that the hotel definitely understands what she means. I'm sorry there wasn't a better solution than this. I and my future husband have already gone to LC with her. Legal court? But she has my youngest little brother, 15, at her house, and I can't cut contact with my mom without my little brother being taken from me, and I can't let that happen. So I have to wait until he has successfully moved out of the home before I go no contact with my mom. Oh, LC means limited contact. More stories my mom has done to me. She gave me an eating disorder when I was 18 because she talked a lot about weight and diets and encouraged me to lose too. She gave me diet pills and apparently didn't see that I only ate 2 eggs a day and worked out daily after work. When I told her that my fiancé and I have set a date for the wedding, her response was that it was a good motivation for me to lose weight. When I talked about what colors I wanted for the wedding, she mentions that she wants to be dressed in the wedding colors, but she shows me dresses in colors I haven't chosen and said that I must have shown her a picture with those colors even though I say no. She doesn't like that she will have to eat breakfast with Dad and his side of the family. I said we all stay in the same hotel and can't exclude people from the breakfast. I wish there was a better solution too. I really wish that there was someone who could just switch them out. I really just wish that they did not. Oh man, I'm sorry. I was about to say I wish that somehow, for some reason, their keys to the suites wouldn't work, but then they would probably go banging on this poor woman's door during their wedding night. But I'm sorry that they had to go through that. Really manipulative. And maybe there is another romantic hotel. I know you don't want to switch, but it seems like you have to. Maybe that's the only solution if you want some privacy on your wedding night. Either that or just somehow find some alternate accommodations for the mother-in-law, the stepdad, and the brother. Who wants them at the next to you on a wedding night?
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 2. Shady boss lied about my position to keep me from policy-allowed benefit for years. I found out, and it changed everything. A few years ago, I worked at a big retail company and had for many years. Eventually, I went through enough grad school education to get my license to work at a higher level. Much more pay, more job satisfaction, more responsibilities, fancy title, but the job market was tough. I stayed on with my company to work in a floater position, where I could cover a large area and work at all the stores within that area on a rotating but irregular basis. Eventually, I wanted to get a staff position, where I had a single store assigned. The area was huge, the furthest store being over 100 miles from my home, and that is exactly where I was assigned to train for the new role. It was a rough store. Folks in my position were robbed and assaulted at gunpoint. Neighborhood was very unfriendly. Volume at the store was among the highest in the state. Staff turnover was, as you might expect, extreme. Well, after training, I wasn't really being scheduled to float to other stores. Once a month, at most, I asked to be scheduled a little more diversely, since most of the stores in my area were much closer to my home and didn't require 4 hours of driving a day. Boss man told me that I was the only floater experienced enough to handle that store. I didn't buy it. But what can you do, right? Well, a colleague told me about the mileage reimbursement policy. Floaters working at a store more than 50 miles from home can file for reimbursement of mileage over that 50 miles each way. Can even include meals. So I filled out a few of those and sent them to my boss to sign. He didn't quite refuse, but he never actually signed and filed them. I suspect as soon as I left his office at our district center, he tossed them out. Boss man tells me later that they must be lost in the system. Eventually, the same colleague showed me how to fax those same forms to accounts payable, bypassing the district boss man. So I started doing just that. One day, boss man calls me in a panic. He wants me to stop filing the forms. I asked to be floated closer to home, but he won't budge. He needs me at that miserable store. He promises me he'll make me a staff role at that store if I promise to stop faxing those forms. Staff roles are a great promotion and usually come with better pay and a few other little conveniences, so I agree. Boss man says there won't be a pay bump right away, but that it'll come down the road. That never happened. 2 years later, the situation at the store has become too toxic for even me. I asked to step down from the staff position to be a floater again and be allowed to float to other stores. Boss man says that I'm already a floater. Never was in a staff position. But that he can't let me work at other stores because it's better for me and the customers if I stay there for familiarity. Floaters do not get scheduled to stores exclusively, so I am being singled out because they're still desperate to cover that dump of a store. I'm livid, so I start looking. It took me months, but I eventually found an opportunity to make my dream career transition. I put in my formal notice, and that's when the fun started. Remember that whole mileage reimbursement policy? Well, I kept meticulous track of all my shifts, and there is no statute of limitations baked into the policy. So I start filling out those reimbursement forms to retroactively cover every single shift from the past 2 odd years. I skipped the meal part since I didn't want to go through all that effort in finding receipts. I had a friendly store manager sign off on them, and I start sending them to accounts payable directly again. I didn't fax them all in at once, but for each shift in my final 2 weeks, I faxed a few dozen in. We still have fax machines in that line of work, believe it or not. I figured, what do I have to lose? Worst case scenario, accounts payable declines the forms. One of my last shifts, I start getting the checks from accounts payable. Not added to my paycheck, but sent to me directly. Mileage reimbursements are non-taxable income, so this was all tax-free money coming to me. It must have taken a while for the charges to show up on a balance sheet because a few weeks after my final paycheck, I get a call from my now former boss man. He wasn't happy. He got some big loss prevention manager involved, and together they started saying I was breaking some rule by requesting the payments. They specifically claimed I was ineligible because I agreed I wouldn't be eligible in a staff position. Then they threatened legal action against me if I didn't remit the full amounts back the same week. But I had the email chain from when boss man said I was never staff and always a floater. I politely referenced that email chain before letting them know firmly that because I was lied to, our prior agreement didn't apply and I was fully eligible all along. Corporate policy, as confirmed by HR, agreed with me, so I let them know I wasn't returning a single penny. In the end, the reimbursements amounted to well over $21,000 US. And I transitioned into my dream job. I could say that I would trade that money back for the time I lost commuting to that miserable store, 4 hours every shift, but all that pressure motivated me to making the best career move of my life. The great satisfaction of not only professionally surpassing my old boss, but getting to tell him that his lies cost him way more on the way out is almost priceless. I also shared my story and method with many colleagues who were being told wrongly by the boss man that they didn't qualify for this policy. Oh, perfect. Just perfect. Big payday. And you can afford to have some very nice weekends to yourself or sock that money away. I would say sock that money away. Save it up. That's a great start to a retirement plan, depending on, how old you are and where you are at in life. But yeah, either way, get that bag. Story 3. Doctor sewed my vagina shut after delivering my baby. Can I sue? This might be a weird story. But I had my first child 6 weeks and 3 days ago. During delivery, I tore and had to get stitches. The doctor on call didn't tell me how many stitches I got, where he put them, or even what type of tear I had. I had my 6 weeks checkup Monday, and when I finally get a room, I realized my doctor didn't have any notes or know anything about my delivery. She had to ask me if I got stitches and if the doctor on call gave me any information about them. I had to tell her I had no idea. I was out of it after delivering my son. I couldn't even hold him. When she finally gets to checking to make sure everything is healed up properly, her face changes, and she tells me we have a problem. She then pulls out a notepad and begins to explain that the way my vagina was stitched caused it to heal in a weird way. She then draws the opening to my vagina and shades out the middle of the hole. To put it in a better perspective, my vagina looks like the number 8, but the 2 holes are smaller and the line in the middle is way thicker. I have 2 mini holes that not even a pen tip could fit into. She tells me I have to have surgery because the problem isn't going to resolve itself. I already had a traumatic time healing from the birthing process, and I now have to go back through what traumatized me to begin with. Would I be able to sue the doctor? I tried researching if this was a common thing, even though I've never heard of it, but nothing pops up other than the husband stitch. Not a lawyer, but I think you could sue. Yeah, I do. I think there's a lot of people in the comments that might be able to help you. I think some lawyers might be willing to give you their number. Oh, definitely. You've got some sort of compensation coming to you. Mind you, I'm not a legal person, can't offer legal advice. It's just my opinion. Story 4. My father keeps hanging up the phone while I'm still talking. I decided not to call him back, and that's why his house lost electricity for a while. I just read a post about someone's dad who never hangs up the phone himself. My dad's the exact opposite, and it reminded me of an incident that happened a few years ago. My dad disconnects the call once he's gotten what he wants out of it. No goodbye, no, I'm hanging up now, no, anything else. It drives me bat guano insane, crazy. I take care of the utilities at his house, i.e., I pay his electric and phone bills. A few weeks ago, it was time to pay the electric bill, but I was having bank issues and the payment wasn't going through. I called him to let him know the issue and to ask if he would mind paying the bill himself this time, as it was the last day for payment. I'm not exaggerating when I say I had to call him 6 times to get just this one point across, because he kept hanging up thinking I was done speaking. I almost threw my phone at the wall. It was so frustrating. I think all he got from my call was, "Today is the last day to pay the bill," and he assumed that I was calling him to tell him I had paid it. I was so frustrated at that point that I didn't call back. If he doesn't want to listen to what I have to say, he may as well bear the consequences of it. 2 weeks later, the electricity connection to his house got disconnected. He called me up shouting about unpaid bills. I calmly told him that I had called him about it, and since he kept disconnecting the numerous calls I placed, I assumed he had it handled. Anyways, it's almost festival season in my country, and I'm so busy that I won't be able to sort out his issues for at least another 2 weeks. He's going to have to figure it out himself. Have fun taking multiple trips to the government-run electricity board office, Dad. Yeah, if someone's not going to listen to you, why keep talking? They have to sort it out. It's really awful that someone is just so selfish when it comes to phone calls. Just, that's all the information that they think they need, and they think their time is more useful. Well, now your time is really going to be taken up. Story 5. Would I be the a-hole if I go on vacation instead of my brother's wedding? My brother Tom, 36 male, and I, 26 female, have never had a really solid relationship. Due to our age gap, we didn't spend much time, and by the time I was old enough to develop a personality, he was moved out of the house. For the last 2 years, my brother and his fiancée Sarah, 32 female, have been planning their wedding, and it's coming up in September. I was asked to be bridesmaid. I figured I was only asked as a courtesy since I'm her soon-to-be sister-in-law, but I still took it seriously. I've been a bridesmaid for the last 2 years. Just a few weeks ago, I managed to save up to buy the $800 bridesmaid dress. Overall, in the last 2 years, between group outings to parties, dinners, lunches, clothes, etc., I spent thousands of dollars. Eventually, all the girls in the wedding and I became extremely close, and I started to get hyped for the wedding. Sarah recently got close with her brother's wife, Becky, 30 female. Last week, she dropped the ball on me that she no longer wants me to be a bridesmaid, and she would prefer if Becky would take my place. It broke my heart a little, but it's her wedding, and it's not my place to tell her how to run it, so I said it was fine. Yesterday, I went to my brother's house to pick up the bridesmaid dress and was going to see if I could return it since it was within the time frame. Sarah was completely appalled and said that Becky was going to wear it since she and I are the same size. I said that would be fine, but they would have to pay me the $800 for it. Sarah said that Becky couldn't afford that, and I should just be nice and let her use it, and said that I could keep it after the wedding. I explained that I'm not just giving away the dress, and I'm not ever going to use it after the wedding. After some bickering and back and forth, I just ended up taking it and leaving. My brother and Sarah tried to compromise with me and say I could be the assistant flower girl, and I felt offended at the offer. After I said no, they then said that Becky could give me $250 for it. Again, no, and I returned the dress and got a full refund. I told them I understand that it's their wedding, but they're being extremely disrespectful to me, and I don't need to deal with it, and I'm not going to the wedding. Today, my coworker says she has an extra round-trip plane ticket to go to Miami, and that she'll sell it to me for half price. Plus, I would have to pay for half the hotel, and I can go hang out with her in Florida. The only downside is that I'll be in Florida for the week of my brother's wedding. So would I be the a-hole if I just go party in Miami instead of going to my brother's wedding? I'd say you're on par of a level of a-hole your brother and fiancé are being. They wanted to get away with having this dress. They kick you out of the wedding thing. Doesn't sound like you're in a big relationship with them already. I think you're just matching their energy, to be perfectly honest. I don't know, what do you think?
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.